Sometimes you wake up and realize the house is quiet. Too quiet. You wonder when was the last time your son or daughter called or came by or even just sent a message to check in. That silence can feel heavy, like something's changed, and you're not sure why. In this video, I want to gently walk with you through some of the hidden reasons why adult children start pulling away, and most importantly, what you can do to bring warmth back into the relationship, step by step. Let's begin with something I hear a lot. Maybe you've said it yourself. I gave up everything for you. It might sound like a simple truth or even a way to express love, but when it's repeated often, it can carry a hidden weight. For your adult children, those words might not feel like love. They might sound like pressure. And over time, that pressure turns into distance, not closeness. I remember a woman I worked with named Linda, from a small town in Texas. She's 68, a widow, and raised her daughter mostly on her own. She was proud of the sacrifices she made, how she skipped vacations, worked overtime, put off her own dreams so her daughter could thrive. But whenever her daughter came to visit or called, Linda would remind her of it. "I did everything for you," she'd say, and she meant it with love. But her daughter began pulling away, fewer calls, shorter visits. Until one day Linda asked me, why doesn't she want to spend time with me anymore? We talked through it. And she realized her daughter wasn't ungrateful. She was overwhelmed by the guilt those words carried. One thing that often helps is replacing that kind of phrase with a memory instead. Instead of saying, "I gave everything for you," try something like, "I still remember how happy I felt watching you walk across that graduation stage," or "It made me proud just to be your parent." Those are loving, open memories, no strings attached. And here's something I hope you remember. Your love doesn't need to prove itself anymore. You've already shown it again and again. Now you can let go of the need to remind and just let the love speak for itself. You might be surprised how gently the relationship begins to heal. Here's another one I've seen many times. It usually starts with concern, but it can quickly turn into something else, giving too much advice or criticism about your child's choices. Maybe you've said something like, "Why would you take that job?" or "That neighborhood isn't safe," or even "You should have married someone different." It might come from a place of love, but when your child hears it, it can feel like judgment, not care. And judgment pushes people away, even family. There's a man I worked with named George. He's 72 and lives in a quiet suburb in Ohio. His only son, Matthew, decided to move to New York City for a new career opportunity. George didn't like the idea at all. He thought the city was too busy, too dangerous, too expensive. Every phone call turned into an argument. "You're making a mistake," George would say. "You're throwing away your life." After a while, those calls stopped coming. When George finally opened up to me, he said, "I just wanted the best for him." But deep down, he realized he hadn't been listening. He'd only been correcting. That realization hurt, but it also gave him a second chance to try a different approach. One of the simplest ways to reconnect is by replacing advice with curiosity. Instead of saying, "That's a bad idea," try asking, "What made you excited about that?" or "How's that going for you?" When you open the door to their world without judgment, they're much more likely to walk through it. You don't have to agree with everything your children do to stay close. Sometimes just showing that you're willing to listen is the greatest gift you can give. That's how trust grows and how the door stays open. Let me gently share another pattern I often notice. It's when older parents unintentionally lean too much on their children for everyday help, company, or emotional support. Of course, needing assistance from time to time is completely normal. But when it becomes constant or filled with guilt, your child may begin to feel more like a caretaker than a loved one. That shift, though quiet, can create emotional distance. I'll tell you about Mary. She's 70 and lives in Arizona. After her hip surgery, she needed help getting around, and her daughter Emily was there every day, bringing groceries, handling appointments, checking in. But as time passed, Mary continued to call for even the smallest things. "Can you come help me with the TV remote?" Or, "I'm lonely. Just stay a bit longer." Emily started to feel overwhelmed. She never complained, but I could see it in her. Eventually, she pulled away, visiting less. Mary was heartbroken. We talked, and I gently asked her, "Is there anything you can try to handle on your own?" She surprised herself. She learned how to use her phone's grocery app. She joined a local walking group. Slowly, Emily noticed, and their visits began to feel joyful again, not heavy. One of the most helpful things you can do is take back a bit of your independence. Even something as small as learning to refill your own prescriptions online, or setting up a weekly plan with neighbors or community services, can make a big difference. You are not a burden. You are capable, and your efforts, no matter how small, are a sign of strength, not weakness. Taking that step toward independence isn't just for you. It's a beautiful way to love your children, too. Here's something I've seen change lives, truly, and it starts with this simple idea. Your life doesn't have to revolve only around your children. I know how natural it is to make them your center, especially when they've been your purpose for so long. But when your world becomes only about them, they might feel like they can never live their own life without hurting you. That creates a quiet tension, and slowly they pull away. I once worked with a man named Ray. He's 75, retired from his job as a mechanic, and lives outside Chicago. After his wife passed, Ray spent most days at home waiting for his son to call. He'd tell me, "I don't have anything going on unless he visits." But that pressure was too much for his son, who had 2 kids and a demanding job. Their calls grew shorter, their visits less frequent. Ray felt forgotten. One day at our local community center, I invited Ray to a woodworking class. At first, he resisted. "What's the point?" he said. But something changed. He went. He met people. He smiled again. When his son visited and saw his father building things, laughing with new friends, it brought them closer than they'd been in years. One of the most powerful things you can do is build your own life, even now. Join a group, take a class, reconnect with something you once enjoyed. You don't need to do it perfectly, you just need to start. You are allowed to have joy that's just yours. Your happiness doesn't take away from your children's lives. It actually gives them space to come back to you with open hearts. Another gentle truth I've learned over the years is this: sometimes the past still speaks louder than the present. And if old wounds were never talked about, if there were moments of hurt, harsh words, misunderstandings, they can quietly build a wall between you and your child. You may not even realize it, but they might still be carrying things you thought were forgotten. Let me tell you about Gloria. She's 76 and lives in North Carolina. She raised 2 sons, mostly by herself, and did everything she could with what she had. But during their teenage years, things got hard. There were arguments, punishments, words said in anger. Years later, one of her sons started pulling away, missing holidays, skipping birthdays. Gloria didn't understand. "I gave him everything," she told me. When I gently asked if there was ever a moment she thought might have left a scar, her eyes welled up. "Maybe I was too hard on him," she said. It was painful, but she decided to write him a letter, not to justify, but to acknowledge. She didn't expect much, but a week later he called. For the first time in years, they talked for an hour. One of the kindest things you can do is simply open the door for healing. Say, "If there's something I did that still hurts you, I'm willing to listen." You don't have to have all the answers, you just have to be open. It takes strength to say, "Let's talk about it," but that kind of strength can melt walls that have stood for decades. And it shows your child that your love is bigger than your pride. If even one of these thoughts touched your heart today, I invite you to share it in the comments. Which part felt true for you? Which story reminded you of your own life? Your words might help someone else feel less alone. And if this message brought you comfort, consider subscribing and tapping the bell, because we'll keep sharing honest, gentle conversations just like this one. You are not forgotten. You are stronger than the silence. And even when the world feels distant, your story, your voice, and your heart still matter. Life continues, and it's never too late to reach for it again.